Willie McGinest, as he sits next to me, he basically told me I was completely wrong about Lamar Jackson because I think that the Louisville quarterback last night did himself a real disservice for the Heisman run. The call-in number 844-204-RICH. Download the app, Twitter us, do whatever you like. We're here to talk, and so call in. But I want to talk right away to Willie McGinest because he is with me for a couple segments because I like to go to my linebacking core of the McGinest-Slade combination when I started out 25 years ago. Yeesh, what?
Yes, that long?
We old Willie. We old.
We're better.
I want to talk to you a lot about looking ahead at the weekend, but we can talk right off the bat about the game last night. Am I wrong? Do you think Lamar Jackson hurt his chances for a Heisman?
Well, that's an individual accomplishment when you talk about the Heisman and everything that you do as a player, and you want to win. You want to win football games too, right? They're 9-2 now, I believe, and maybe the national championship or making the playoffs. I don't know where that is if you can lose 2 games and get in. But as far as what he's done individually as a player is pretty remarkable. I don't think one game should dictate or determine if you win the Heisman or not, but it should encompass or embody everything you've done for the entire season. And, again, I heard the conversation earlier. If you take him off of that football team, is that the same football team, or they're a 9-2 team?
All I know is that Greg Ward made a name for himself last night. And Houston's feeling pretty good about themselves right now. Willie McGinest joining me, Susie Schuster. The Chris Command Center, of course, is here. Chris Law, Chris Brockman, Mike Del Tufo. Hello, old friend. How are you? Ramona Shelburne, the senior writer from ESPN.com, will join us fairly soon. Rick Neuheisel, in the top of the last hour, will join us to look ahead at the college football slate for the weekend. But, Willie, I want to talk to you about what's happening in Dallas because when I look at Dak Prescott and Tony Romo, it reminds me.
You said no Romo? Like no
I didn't say no
okay.
Romo.
Kinda.
But listen, I'm rusty, babe. I'm usually like, in drop off at this hour. They pull me out. They pull me back in. And, I don't get to do TV every day. This is not like the old days.
You're good. You should.
Yes, I should. I said it.
Yes.
But, I was thinking about the Drew Bledsoe, Tom Brady days. And we were there and we were watching how Drew got hurt. Tom came in. He was gracious. And Eric Davis did say 10 minutes ago, oh, he's supposed to be that way. But it reminded me of the parallels in New England because your quarterback that's going out has to set the table for the young guy coming in. Did you think about those parallels as well?
I did. And when all this was going down, we had a couple segments on the show at NFL Network talking about it. And I brought up Drew and how he handled himself as a professional, how he was in the locker room. And nobody's supposed to enjoy being a backup or getting your job taken due to injury or whatever the case may be. You don't have to like it. But I became a bigger fan of Tony Romo, the way he handled the situation, the way he talked about it and expressed. And I said a lot of these young quarterbacks, and Cam Newton being one of these quarterbacks, you should take a note and learn from this. This is the toughest thing for a football player. Forget losing football games. Getting your job taken and being a backup is one of the toughest things for a football player to have to go through. And the way he handled that made me a bigger Tony Romo fan. And a lot of other players should understand what being a true professional, a true teammate, and being unselfish, and how to conduct yourself when you face adversity. They should take a note, from Tony's book and how Drew handled it as well.
The humility.
Yes.
Susie Schuster here talking on the Rich Eisen show about the situation in Dallas. And what I thought about last night when you bring up Cam Newton was when he's watching Drew Brees take these hits and he's getting the roughing the passer penalty, how annoyed do you think he was last night?
Well, he got one when he got hit out of bounds. I mean, he got it. And you know what?
That seemed like a gimme.
Well, yeah, but to his point, I do agree. When he's in the pocket as a pocket passer, he should get treated the same way. When he complained about getting hit low, there was another hit that same weekend. Quarterback, somebody came in, went down low. The flag was out instantly. And when he's a pocket passer, you have to treat him like a pocket passer, like you treat everybody else. When he's a runner, which we saw last night as well, they ran those quarterback power plays and those those naked boots and sweeps and quarterback draws than he is a runner, and he expects to get hit. He understands that. And I think people try to lump the two together and kind of confuse the situation, but I understand where he was coming from, and he deserves the right to get treated like all the other quarterbacks when he's in the pocket as a passer.
Willie McGinest joining me, Susie Schuster on The Rich Eisen Show, but it's hard to have it both ways.
No.
I mean, let's face it. I mean, he wants to get treated the way that some of these other stand back in the pocket quarterbacks
It's not his fault that he's athletic and he's talented and he can do more. I mean, same with Dak.
Right.
And same with Russell Wilson. Same with Aaron Rodgers. Alex Smith.
He just tends to complain a little bit more,
Yeah,
and I
but
think that tunes people out.
You know why? Because he's my size.
Right.
He's 6'5". He's 245, 250. If I'm playing linebacker, I'm going to do everything I can. I'm going to bring all the force I can to get him down. So more times than none, he wins the battle against certain linebackers, defensive backs, and all those other guys. He's going to win that matchup because he's big, strong, and physical. So these guys understand, I don't want to get embarrassed, so I have to bring it. And, yeah, they bring a little bit more when they go against them.
Right. Well, you have to bring more. You're not going to bring him down.
Yes.
Willie, what are you playing? Where are you now compared to where you played?
I'm probably about 7 pounds or 8 pounds less than what I played at. I'm about 265 right now.
Right. Because you were a brick wall.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, I mean,
I'm still a brick wall.
You're a brick wall. I don't know. You still are a brick wall, so I'm not going to go any further than that, or they might say that's sexual harassment. I want to ask you about the Patriots game looking ahead at this weekend, because C.J. Prosise seemed to confuse Belichick, and of course he did. He's new. He's a fresh new face. But what can the 49ers look at that game and say, okay, we can try that on the Patriots?
Nothing.
Yeah. All right.
No. I mean, when you look at Chip Kelly's system and what he tries to do, it's hard for him to make adjustments. This is his system. This is how he runs his offense. It's hard to get out of that and run a traditional offense. I think you could take some of the things that Seattle did, but he would have to change too much, and it takes longer than a week to do that. So, I mean, I think that's why he's heavily criticized, because if his offense does not work, what adjustment, or what are you going to go straight to a traditional offense? It's too hard. You don't have enough time.
And you can't always just pull out some nice, sweet, young running back.
No. And, Prosise did a lot in pass coverage, in receiving, and he ran the football effectively. And, I think there were some matchups that Seattle found or saw and took advantage of. And this is what happens in football. These two teams create a lot of different matchups for each other. We saw that in the Super Bowl when they played. We saw that when they played this past week. Two really good teams, really good players on both sides of the ball, and they create matchup problems for each other.
What do you think of Tom Brady's Foot Locker commercial? I mean, that was I loved it myself, but I'm also biased.
I think Tom he doesn't do a lot of things during the season. He focuses on. He probably shot that before the season. Who knows? He shuts down, but anything that he does is gonna be classy, and if you are lucky enough to get him to do something, it's gonna be top notch.
Because he approached it the same way he approaches talking to his guys on the sideline. That anger was real.
Yes.
And we know how seriously he took that.
Maybe some acting in the future. Who knows?
Do you think?
Maybe. I mean, he did appear on TED 2?
He did.
I think he's good enough looking though to be on the screen. Like I don't know if people
he's
want
good
him.
enough. I don't know if he's that. I don't know if he has the face for TV. I don't know. What
you don't know if the cleft chin,
you can just do radio or something.
The chiseled jawline. I don't know if he could make it in this town. Yeah. Wow, Brockman, he looks just like you. That's so crazy.
Yeah, we have a lot in common.
Willie McGinest here on the Rich Eisen Show. It's funny because we know his demeanor in the locker room, and we know how he is on the sideline. Ray Lewis called out Joe Flacco this week.
I saw that.
And I was surprised because Joe Flacco, last time I checked, the reason why Ray's got a ring is Joe Flacco's performance.
Yep.
What did you take of Ray Lewis attacking him?
It's tough. Ray is somebody who's been outspoken his whole entire career, and he's backed it up with his play. And I listened to Joe Flacco, his rebuttal about the whole situation. He says maybe it's my demeanor, or it's my attitude, or just the way I am, my personality, why people would assume that. there are other quarterbacks like that. I think Jay Cutler is another guy people kind of relate that they don't really care or have the passion, or you see something wrong happen and they're not going crazy or yelling, or they kind of pretty much keep their composure the same. As a teammate, as somebody who was around Joe Flacco, I think he probably knows more than we do. I think Joe Flacco has passion for the game. I think he's one of the better quarterbacks. There has been some inconsistency, but when it was time, like you mentioned, to win that Super Bowl, he played better than any quarterback in the playoffs that you've seen in a long time. Contract year, everything on the line for him, he stepped up, and he won a Super Bowl. It's hard because we saw players who left Green Bay, receivers, who played with Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going to say who, but they said he wasn't a good leader. They came out and said.
You are. You are going to say who. Come on. Just between you and me.
Oh, it was Greg Jennings.
It was Greg Jennings. Nice. He said he wasn't a good leader.
Law will say it.
Well, I'm saying it. He said he wasn't a good leader.
Right.
And these are guys that are in the locker room. They see you every day. They go to war with you. I mean, we're there more than we are at home pretty much. So they have a little more insight. I don't know if Ray was just trying to get a buzz. I don't know if this is true.
Or a job.
A job.
Because he hasn't been the Ray from the field on TV. Who knows? Maybe he's looking for another gig.
Well, yeah, it's a little different on TV. It's not easy.
Right.
I mean, it takes a little work.
And it was what I thought was funny was Joe Flacco saying some of his speeches didn't really make sense. It reminded me of the old Belushi from Animal House, where it's like, you're like, huh?
At the end of the day, it's like, okay, let's go play football.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, break. But it is interesting because to attack a leader who brought you rings with an S, it's one ring for Flacco, but sorry guys, but to attack somebody like that, it seems to me not only out of character, but also.
Well, his passion probably is not the same as Ray. Ray was real passionate. I mean, we saw the speeches, the dancing, and after the post-game, speeches and things like post-game interviews and all those different things. And everybody, I think, approaches the game a certain way. It affects everybody a certain way. And I was passionate and I was emotional sometimes, but I was a little different than other guys on my team. And I didn't expect them to be like I was, or to act like I did after a game, after a loss, or after a victory. So everybody's different. But you should have passion and respect, and I don't think Joe would be out there. I mean, he's taking some hits and he's playing tough and he's gutting it out and he's playing he's bouncing back.
Yep.
So
that first ring, of course, Trent Dilfer. What's up, La?
Oh, just wanted to ask you, Willie, because Susie mentioned this earlier that Ray may have said some of this stuff to kind of get headlines, looking for a job. He was with ESPN. Do you remember the first time when you started your TV career, you kind of saw a situation with a former teammate or player where a producer may have said, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And was it difficult for you to either call him out or?
It's tough, but the one thing I wanted to always have was credibility. I always wanted to be honest. I always wanted to respect the players. I remember when I was playing and I used to listen to ex-players talk about us and some of the things they said. And the one thing, if I'm going to criticize somebody, then I'm going to give advice of what they should do or how they should do it or how they could get better. I'm not just going to continue, criticize and talk bad about people or players. I respect the game and I respect players. I know how tough it is to go out there and perform at a high level on a consistent basis. Nobody, not even Ray, and you can pull up that Super Bowl tape that they're talking about that Joe won, is perfect or played without mental errors or played the game consistently at a high level. We all had our ups and downs at some point. So you have to understand that when you're on the other side, like we are now, that players do go through things. And nobody played just perfect their entire career. So I understand that and I respect that. But it's tough when you do have to call out friends and guys that you're cool with. And sometimes they don't like it, but when I run into a guy and he doesn't like something I said, tell me what I said.
Right.
And if it's not true, then tell me, let's work it out.
It's a business, Willie.
It's a business.
Much more with Willie McGinest ahead. We're going to look ahead to the weekend games. We're going to talk about Luke Kuechly as well. This is The Rich Eisen Show. Just an awful sight seeing that young linebacker, Luke Kuechly, in tears and hyperventilating. Couldn't tell whether he could catch his breath at all.
Yeah, I got a little nervous
McGinest.
when I saw that. And he's only missed 3 games in his career, and that was because of a concussion last year. So when you see a guy like that, one of the better players, one of the better role models on and off the field, just a great leader, does everything right. I think he's a perfect example of the Shield. And at the end of the day, when you see that, you kind of forget about football and you start thinking about the person, his well-being, and and his future. And Cam didn't come to talk last night because he was in there checking on his teammate, and what we call it is family. And these guys are family in Carolina. So I hope that he's feeling better and everything is going all right for him, because he's a treat for us to have, for the NFL to have on and off the field.
Kuechly, absolutely beloved by the Carolina faithful. And we did see Thomas Davis put this up today on Twitter. It's a picture of Luke Kuechly giving a thumbs up on his feet, looks perfectly healthy. And we're hoping, we know that Ron Rivera said that he's in the concussion protocol, but that was obvious last night. The concern is always second concussion in 12 months. So how concerned are you? Concussions are aggregate. They build up. The last hit that Chris Miller ever took as a Denver Bronco was nothing more than a ding, and it put him out of the league. How concerned are you about Luke Kuechly's future?
As a linebacker, as somebody that played in the trenches where you hit every single play, I think, my mindset was, this is what we signed up for, and we know we know what could happen, going forward if this continues to happen. And I think it makes players, like you saw, retire a little bit earlier. It makes guys sit back and reflect. And I am concerned about him and all the other players that, put themselves in that situation. Ingram also left the game with a concussion.
Another concussion.
But I think the NFL is doing a great job at protecting players and making it, an important initiative to keep that focus on taking players from the youth all the way up, teaching these guys, take your head out of the game. Don't come in with your head first. And when you look at that play, it looked like he was grazed. It didn't look like they actually hit helmet to helmet, but like you said, the build-up and the history, and then when something happens as slight as that hit, it can affect you. So don't rush him back. I know we love him as a football player. We love him in his past. We love him on the field. But make sure he's okay and he goes through the entire process before we get him back on the field, because he is one of the best players.
Willie McGinest, Susie Schuster here on The Rich Eisen Show. And we did discuss this in the first hour with Eric Davis. It wasn't helmet to helmet. No. It was an undercut to the chin, which anybody who covers fighting knows that's the quickest way to get a concussion in fighting.
Or knocked out.
Or knocked out altogether. And I think, and again, that's the concern as you look ahead to a kid who's going to want to come back and play. I was actually thinking it looked a little bit like the Gronk situation, because he had trouble breathing. And I'm wondering if we're going to hear later on, was there a lung issue? Was there a punctured lung situation, or what there was? I wonder if it's just a concussion or if there's something more about Luke Kuechly that we will find out. But it's hard because we're not doctors. We just play them on TV. Here's what Drew Brees had to say after the game about Luke Kuechly.
I gave him his space, and as they were taking him off the field, I tried to let him know that obviously I'd be praying for him, and that I'm not sure exactly what it was, but obviously for that guy to go down like that, I think you think the worst. So he is maybe certainly one of the best football players I've ever seen, ever played against, and I hope that he's okay.
Drew Brees had that to say about Luke Kuechly. I mean, look, everyone's concerned. Anybody gets concerned when someone's carted off the field like that. What's the hardest you were ever hit, or that you hit someone? Did you ever a situation like an Earl Thomas, Gronk situation? Did you ever reach out? I'm curious about what's your biggest hit story?
There was a lot of hits. I didn't take a lot. I used to give them out. I played linebacker, so I wasn't, and I'm taller, so I didn't really get as low as some of these smaller quarterbacks. I used my shoulder pads a lot. But one story is I had back surgery, and I got teary-eyed when I woke up from surgery because I didn't know if that back surgery, it was a little later in my career, was going to take me out of football. And I think that's why Luke got emotional on the football field. Because when you go through these things, you start to think about your future immediately. Like, I want to be here for my teammates. I want to be back on the field. I love this game so much. And when I woke up out of surgery, that's all I could think of for the next day is if I'll be able to play football again, because you're in pain, the process or whatever happens, you don't know how your body's going to react. So it's a dangerous sport. The league went to the ultimate measures to make it safe. But we're gladiators, and this is what we train for. This is what we condition our bodies for. And unfortunately, sometimes there are things like that happen. You just have to assess each individual situation and go from there. But player safety should be first and foremost. And he was emotional because he doesn't want to come off the football field.
And he's a young kid, and he was frightened. Yes. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, he's a young kid, and it's okay. Yep. It's all right to say that.
Nope. Yeah. No one is questioning anything about his pride, about his strength. No.
He's
he
still
was a
one
kid
of the
who was
toughest,
hurt.
one of the most fierce players in the league. So, I mean, that goes without saying. But we do, you put a lot into that. We put a lot into the sport. You put a lot, everything you see him doing out there, it takes a lot of hours. The game is the easiest part of football. It's the week leading up to it. It's the off season. It's all the work you put in. So all those emotions come out when something like that happens.
Winning is tough. It's the living that's harder.
It's tough.
I'm telling you. Willie, thank you for coming in as always. You never let me down.
It's always a pleasure.
We'll watch you all weekend long on NFL Total Access. I appreciate it, my old friend.
Thank you.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.